Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Tree Talk today. I'm Maya Thiagarajan, the founder of Tree, and today I have with me a very special guest, Mahima Poddar, who is the founder of the Kindness Foundation. The Kindness Foundation is one of my favorite organizations because it is really focused on helping us all to be better versions of ourselves and helping to create a kinder, more gentle world. And they do a lot of relief work. They do a lot of work with schools. They have a kindness festival with wonderful speakers. And really, it's a foundation that challenges us all to be kind and to build a kinder community. So, welcome, Mahima. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Maya. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure, as always.
Wonderful. So, I wanted to start by sharing a sort of concern that I feel our society today has. Very often, kids are bombarded with media that makes kindness sound actually quite uncool and often almost like a weakness. You know, it's like if you're tough, then you are able to, you're tough and you're strong. That's what people are looking up to. Whereas kindness is seen as a weakness because kind people are taken advantage of, or kind people are trampled on, or so this whole image of kindness as something that seems weak and uncool, I think, is quite troubling. So I was wondering how we reframe that and what your suggestions are for us as the adults in the community to change that perception for kids.
So, I think it's good to start off by really understanding what is kindness and the popular notion, just as you pointed out, that it's about being polite and being nice, right? That in quote unquote nice. But it's actually way more than that, isn't it? Actually about building connections, about having empathy, and it's also about having a supportive environment where we acknowledge and accept every individual that comes in front of us. So that's actually what kindness is, and it can show itself in very different ways. Being polite is good, being nice is good, but that's not the only way that you can be kind. We talk about kindness being a superpower, but oftentimes people don't know what does that mean. How can kindness be a superpower? And I'll tell you something very simple. The beauty and brilliance of kindness is that it lies in small everyday acts. And the minute a person realizes that something this small and this so-called insignificant act can have such a ripple effect and create such a huge difference, that's a superpower. Because we are all trying to make a difference and we don't realize that it doesn't take much. And when you understand that kindness is literally about having boundaries for yourself and respecting the other's boundaries, and just about respect and dignity for all around you, like true, genuine respect, not affected, not to show, but genuine respect for whichever individual comes in front of you, then that's when you realize that you have that superpower. It's already there in us. So it really starts with this understanding that it's not about subscribing to a notion of kindness. It can look different for different people, and especially for kids nowadays, they have their own way of expressing it. And kids are very conscious of their boundaries nowadays, and oftentimes they're told, especially in our culture and communities, that with so and so you can't, you have to allow, you have to say this, you have to do that, even things that they're not comfortable doing. And but they're not given the power to say no in a polite way. That's a superpower in itself. Like, you don't have to be rude, you don't have to be impolite, but you can hold on to your boundaries, and that's respectful for yourself and for the other person. So that's the starting point of understanding that kindness is not boring. It gives you a superpower. Now, when we say how can kindness be cool, I think it starts with this whole reframing, right? That it's not boring, it's not the same old things that we talk about and we do. That there is a fun element to it by understanding that you can interpret it in any way you want, which you can gamify it. You can have challenges that make you think about another person. You can include arts and crafts as a component to it. It isn't just charity. It isn't just about going and feeding somebody in an orphanage, or sharing time. It isn't just that. That is kindness, but it's not just that, because not everybody's language is the same. We have different ways of expressing ourselves. So especially for the youth, it's great to ask them to go and volunteer in organizations, but if you don't make it fun along with it, then they're not going to do it. It's going to be an activity that's been imposed upon them by school, which they finish it for their marks and grades, and then they don't look back at those kind of activities after they graduate. So we need to make it fun. We need to make it engaging and entertaining. To give you an example, we had this just last week, we had a huge community art wall. It was like a 20 feet by 6 feet canvas where everybody from the community came and painted on it. And not just painting, they were allowed to do collage work, they were sticking bits and pieces of things, they were doodling and writing. And the feedback that came back from it was, I never thought that I would be painting on the same canvas with the kind of people who are next to me. It really brought, people from all strata, all backgrounds, all societal levels, and people from different disabilities were there too. People who had never stepped into a library, people who were working at the library. So it made people think from another person's perspective, and that's a starting point of kindness, right? Just empathy. How do you build in empathy?
Yeah.
It's through these creative ways in which you make a person think about it without telling them to be kind, be kind, be kind. Like, what does that even mean? It's when you engage in an activity that subtly sows the seed of you thinking from another person's perspective. That's where it starts, and that's how you can make it fun.
Yeah, and I think so many of the things you said were really valuable. One is just the idea of empathy for others from all backgrounds and deep respect as the starting point, right? And then the second is this idea of drawing boundaries, that kindness does not mean you have no boundaries. Kindness does not just mean saying yes to everyone. It means having boundaries and then having empathy and trying to have respect and think about things from another's perspective, which is definitely, as you said, a superpower, not something that one could see as a weakness or uncool. So I really, really like that. Now, since our audience is largely teachers, can you tell us, just share a couple of strategies for teachers for how do we create cultures of kindness? I don't, like you said, we don't want to be telling kids, be kind, but how do we create an environment that just facilitates that sense of kindness?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a great question, and I get that a lot because there is this notion that either a child or a human being is kind or they are not, and we firmly believe otherwise because, like any other subject, you can teach empathy, you can teach kindness. Initially, it feels a little contrived and like you're doing something cringy or whatever, but like with anything else, you do it enough times, it becomes a habit, and it feels good when you see the impact, the results, and it does feel good. You and I know that when you do something for someone, you're the beneficiary. Actually, because it makes you feel really happy inside. So, keeping that in perspective, all the activities that we try to build around Kind Campus, the empathy education program, it's a very hands-on program, and the starting point of any empathy is listening skills, right? So you gamify that, and there's so many different activities which we do inside the classroom where we start with, okay, there's a very interesting activity where we take two students standing facing each other, and they aren't allowed to talk, they aren't allowed to make any physical contact, but one has to keep moving in any which way, move their hands and legs and even their body in any which way, and the other person has to be the mirror, which means you have to keep moving the hand along with this person, but there's no physical contact, right? So we let this happen for at least 5 to 6 minutes, because we want them to get into it. Initially it feels awkward, they're laughing and whatever. At the end of it, since they've not spoken at all, they have to mimic the expressions also, because a mirror mimics you 100% top to toe. In the end of it, we ask the mirror to tell us, what do you think the person was thinking? What were they trying to communicate? Right? There was no word said. And it's incredible because you would think, what was the other person thinking anyway? They were just moving their hands. No, there is a thought process that starts after a little while, because we've not told them that we are going to do this. And the other person reads them so well, because you have been asked to read the eye expression, the facial expression, and everything. You've been really asked to do deep listening. And once they start doing that, a switch flips. Now students start looking at expressions when they are talking to each other. They're not just listening to words. So, like this, there are so many different activities of role playing, of just giving an assignment to kids. Go out there, and for the next 1 week, I want you to have conversations with people. Or whenever you're having conversations, you come back and tell us what were they really saying, what was between the lines. Don't listen to the words, listen to what were they really thinking or saying, right? There is another program called Roots of Empathy. Have you heard of them? Yeah, so what they do is they bring an infant, like a 6 month old or 3 month old infant, into the classroom, and they ask the class to engage with the child, because now that child cannot communicate other than oohs and ahs and crying, and they have to take care of the child for that 1 hour. And it's been documented and proven how much the empathy skills, especially of younger children, improves when they are trying to take care of an infant. And when you bring that infant in over a couple of months every week, they themselves notice how the child has changed, what it wants, and they understand the human nature so much better. So, the starting point for all of this is listening, and deep listening. And how can we gamify and make kids have fun with this thing of listening? I feel like if there is only one thing we can teach our kids, whether it's in the classroom or as parents, if we can teach them really how to deeply listen, and there's nothing else you want to teach, even that is great. I mean, of course, there are so many other things, but if you want to empathize with some person, somebody, you start off by listening, because kindness is not my version of what you need, but really getting down there to understand what it is you require. And if we don't have that ability to read the room, read the person, read between the lines, then it's a skill we can develop. It's not something that's not possible.
And it sounds like such a phenomenal skill, right? Because as soon as we listen and we begin to understand someone else's perspective, I mean, that's when you can communicate. So many things can happen. So, really, it's the basis not just of kindness, but of interpersonal skills, of
Absolutely.
relationship skills, building a relationship with anyone.
Absolutely.
So I just want to let everyone know that we are, 13th of November is International Kindness Day. And at Tree, we are big fans of the Kindness Foundation and their programs for schools and students as well. Because we really do believe that it's up to us as adults, as teachers, as parents, to build a kinder world and build an environment that helps our children to see kindness as a superpower. So thank you so much, Mahima, for this today. And, we really hope that together we can build a kinder world.
Absolutely. Thank you, Maya.